I'm going to read you a book called The Tale of Three Trees. It's a traditional folk tale. This is a fun book. My kids liked it when they were little, but it tells the story of Jesus from kind of a different perspective, but from the time he was born. Once, upon a mountaintop, three little trees stood and dreamed of what they wanted to become when they grew up. Three trees. The first little tree looked up at the stars twinkling like diamonds above him. I want to hold great treasure, he said. I want to be covered in gold and filled with precious stones. I will be the most beautiful treasure chest in the world. The second tree looked out at the small stream trickling by on its way to the ocean. I want to be a strong sailing ship. I want to travel mighty waters and carry powerful kings. I will be the strongest ship in the world. The third little tree, those three trees, looked down into the valley below where busy men and busy women worked in a busy town. I don't want to leave this mountaintop at all, she said. I want to grow so tall that when people stop to look at me, they will raise their eyes to heaven and think of God. I want to be the tallest tree in the world. Years passed. The rains came, the sun shone, and the little trees grew tall. One day, 3 woodcutters climbed the mountain. Look at those. What are they carrying? They're carrying axes. They're going to cut those trees down. The first woodcutter looked at the first tree and said, This tree is beautiful. It is perfect for me. And with a swoop of his shining axe, the first tree fell. Now I shall be made into a beautiful chest, thought the first tree. I shall hold wonderful treasure. The second woodcutter looked at the second tree and said, This tree is strong. The picture right there. It is perfect for me. With a swoop of his shining axe, the second tree fell. Now I shall sail mighty waters, thought the second tree. I shall be a strong ship fit for kings. The third tree felt her heart sink when the last woodcutter looked her way. She stood straight and tall and bravely pointed to heaven. But the woodcutter never even looked up at her. Any kind of tree will do fine for me, he muttered. And with a swoop of his shining axe, the third tree fell. The first tree rejoiced when the woodcutter brought him to a carpenter shop. But the busy carpenter was not thinking about treasure chests. Instead, his work-worn hands fashioned a tree into the feed box for animals. The once beautiful tree was not covered with gold or filled with treasure. He was coated with sawdust and filled with hay for hungry farm animals. The second tree smiled when the woodcutter took him to a shipyard. But no mighty sailing ships were being made that day. Instead, the once strong tree, look at that picture. What's he being made into? Do you know what they're making? The once strong tree was hammered and sawed into a simple fishing boat, too small and too weak to sail an ocean or even a river. He was taken to a little lake, and every day he brought in dead, smelly fish. Now, the third tree. The third tree was confused when the woodcutter cut her into strong beams and left her in a lumber yard. What happened? The once tall tree wondered. All I ever wanted to do was stay on the mountaintop and point towards God. Many, many days and nights passed, and the three trees nearly gave up on their dreams. But one golden night, starlight poured over the first tree as a young woman placed her baby inside. Boys and girls, who do you think that baby is? Is that baby Jesus? But one golden starlight poured over that first tree as the young woman placed her newborn baby in the feed box. I wish I could make a cradle for him, her husband whispered. Mother squeezed his hand and smiled as the starlight shone on the smooth and sturdy wood. This manger is beautiful. And suddenly the first tree knew she was holding the most beautiful treasure on earth. One evening, as a tired traveler and his friends crowded into an old fishing boat, the traveler fell asleep as the second tree quietly sailed out into the lake. What do you think's in the boat? Soon a thundering storm arose. The little tree shuddered, and he knew he did not have the strength to carry so many passengers safely through the wind and rain. The tired man awakened. He stood up, stretched out his hands, and said, "Peace." The storm stopped as quickly as it had begun, and suddenly the second tree knew he was carrying the King of heaven and earth. Again, that is Jesus. Now, one Friday morning, the third tree was startled when her beams were yanked from her forgotten woodpile. She flinched as she was carried through an angry, jeering crowd, and she shuddered when soldiers nailed a man's hands to her. She felt ugly, harsh, and cruel. Boys and girls, who's on that cross? I think that's Jesus. But on Sunday morning, when the sun rose and the earth trembled with joy beneath her, the third tree knew that God's love had changed everything. It had made the first tree beautiful. It had made the second tree strong. And every time people thought of the third tree, they would think of God. And that was better than being the tallest tree in the world. I hope you enjoyed the story, boys and girls.